So this time on Corey's Garage, we were just about 3 to 4 hours from getting ready to embark on our journey. We spent the last month and a half kind of going through the motorhome and kind of sprucing up the inside of it, my wife and I, just on a whim. We were just sitting around like, hey man, let's go, since we've already done something, let's go on a little trip. One more before our daughter starts school. And we just want to go somewhere the last time. Well, we just took her to California. We were like, how cool would it be to go to Florida? And so we was like, well, we can cruise down to Destin and check it out. I've always flew to Florida, but I haven't ever driven down there. The furthest I've been is New Orleans, Mandeville area. So, well, actually, no, Gulfport is about the farthest I've been. So, yeah, so we've been working on this little project, and we've kind of repainted and redone the whole inside of the motorhome. Not to the best that we could do, but the best we could do with the time that we've had. So, let's go look at it. I think it's ready to go. I tried to order gear vendors for it because last time the 55 miles an hour at 3,500 RPMs is just driving me absolutely insane. I couldn't deal with it anymore. So I called gear vendors and they were like, yeah, we're like 7 to 8 weeks out on getting one out. And I'm like, yeah, we're leaving in like 3 weeks. So that wasn't gonna work. So I got a couple 4L80s. I was like, well, I'll rebuild those and get a trans controller. Well, to find somebody who could build a 4L80 right now and getting parts with the way the supply chain is and all that kind of stuff hasn't been so well. So I had a brand new set of 245/75 tires and it had two 25/75s on it. So it had a 29-inch tall tire on it, and I put almost a 31-inch tall tire on it to try to help with, you know, getting the RPMs down on the highway. Because the motor, with that 400 small block and that 410 gear, it had plenty of low end. It just couldn't, it was just exhausting trying to drive down the highway with it. So we're all loaded up and ready. We've just got to put our ice chest in there and a few goodies, but we've done a little bit of kind of painting on the outside, not too much really. Changed the oil, had to put a new fan clutch on it, a couple new belts, even though I just put new belts on it. It's kind of weird. It's like 2 years ago I replaced all that stuff, and then now I'm just having different issues. But we've just put 2,000 miles on it, and we're about to put about 2,000 more. So, but yeah, I put a trans cooler on it, which I don't understand why this thing didn't have one on in the first place, being it's this large a vehicle. Trying to think of what else we did the outside. Really not much. I did get a set of Boris spacers, and I got the 1.5 inches to space the tire out because they were like slightly rubbing. So I got a little overzealous on it and got too much of a spacer, so kind of had to do a little trimming on the back, you know. And the springs have sagged a little bit. I think what I want to do is put like airbags or an add-a-leaf on the back and get the rear end to set up a little bit higher. But I took and drove it the other day, and it seemed before, I mean, when it went 60 miles an hour, it was wheezing hard because it was wrapped out pretty tight. But we got up to like 63, 65 miles an hour, and the pitch of the motor, you know, it's dropped some. I know it hadn't dropped much, but it's enough to, it's a start. It's better than doing nothing, you know, at this point. But yeah. And if you see in my earlier video, Matt, he done a little walkthrough of what it used to look like. But here is what it looks like now. And I will say that I did give up a lot of resistance because I'm kind of like if it ain't broke, don't fix it kind of guy. And I could sleep anywhere. So kind of freshening this up and remodeling it wasn't on the top of my list of things to do. But, you know, the guy's got to help his wife and be a part of it. So she doesn't give me any hassle with the things I like to do. So, but yeah, so we put a new toilet in. Kind of basically repainted everything. This thing definitely needed a woman's touch. But yeah, just basic painting, plumbing. Had to fix a few different things up. But yeah, definitely made a difference in here compared to what it was last time. And when I upload a video, I'll do the walkthrough of what Matt did before, and then we'll do what we did now. We put shades in here and everything. So, but yeah, I'd say all in all, it looks really, really good. So yeah, so I'm going to do a little bit of a video as we go on this journey. But yeah, it's going to be pretty good. I think it's going to be a pretty good run. So yeah, in about 4 hours, we're going to hit the road. Tried to get from Tulsa to Mandeville overnight. That way we can get down there and go bike riding and do all that kind of stuff. And the best part is when we get to Destin, we're going to be riding bikes. Like, I'm not driving a car anymore until we're ready to leave. So, but yeah, I'd say my wife had a pretty good eye for what she wanted to do in here. And we really didn't spend a lot of money. Didn't really get it completely finished either. But I say it's good enough to get down and have some fun. So yeah, if you like what we're doing, please like and subscribe, and we will try to make more videos and stuff. It's definitely a lot of work, but I think it'll be a lot of fun. So thanks. So we've made it to Appaloosas, and what I always do when I'm driving, I'll take a little fluke meter like this. I always go around and I'll like hit the differential. I know it's a little far away, but it's about 160. You can see that, about 150. Go around and I'll just hit all the hubs and stuff just to get an idea of like the temperatures of everything, to see if something's hot, like 105. I hit the radiator, like the upper hose, 190. You know, make sure there's a heat exchange. 115. We get down there, 190 around the crankcase. But the crazy thing is up top, 219, which this is a complete iron motor. Like, this is iron intake manifold, completely stock. Besides just the regular stuff I've done, trans cooler. I'll check, see if I get that light there just right. 170. So it is doing its job. 130. I don't know if that's quite right. And then I'll check the transmission, which is on an old motorhome or van. It's really easy to do. So the transmission's running 180. And I've been running this thing pretty hard. Like, we've been going about 65, and I bet that engine's every bit of 3,000 or more, you know. But the only problem I'm really having is the rear suspension is just about, I think the springs are pretty worn, and even though the thing's rocking back and forth with the wind, but it's rubbing right on the edges of that tire. So all in all, that's so far, we got about another 100 miles to go, and that's really all the issues I'm having. You know, every once in a while I'll get the wind will hit, and I'll hit some real rough road, and I'll get a little rubbing action. But I really think I can do an Adelie for an airbag, and then actually get the 1-inch spacer instead of the 1.5 inch, and I think it'll cure that problem. But other than that, I mean, for what we've got invested, and I mean, we can get in here and move around and do stuff. It's not bad. I'm getting about 10.5 miles to the gallon. But when I'm trying to run at 65, 68 miles an hour, I'm probably getting about 8. But after a while riding and being up all night, it's getting kind of tiring. So, but yeah, so far the mobile traveler's kicking right along. So I pray that it's gonna, you know, keep up and get us where we need to go. So this is the Baton Rouge traffic. 5 o'clock traffic. It is pretty rough. So far, when it's about that level, it's about 195 degrees. The oil pressure gauge doesn't work. It's on the red, so. But yeah, so far so good. 860-mile journey is complete. We made it to Florida. Getting ready to go on a bike ride. Camper's hooked up. Still got a few things left to hook up, but looks like we got a week of fun.
Daddy, will you tell me to flip it over?
So we're getting ready to finish up our week stay here at Miramar Beach, Florida, and yeah, it was a good time, good trip. We did have a few issues though with the motorhome. One of the issues was where we hook in our water here, it was leaking. Now mind you, we hooked this up at home and had no issues, but I think my phone's fogging up. It's pretty steamy out here. There we go. Anyway, so that hookup right there started leaking. Also, after a little bit of use, our slide plates for our gray and our black water tanks started leaking. So I'd imagine it's a gasket issue, but I'm gonna have to work on that. Buc-ee's here in Alabama is unbelievable. We've been in line for 25 minutes and we went like 4 rows of gas pumps. It's crazy, man. I cannot believe this place is that packed. Traffic is just gridlocked all the way around. So we're trying to get out around the Buc-ee's traffic jam, so we decided to go up and go to an intersection. But I think what we decided to do is what basically everybody decided to do. So now we're sitting probably 3 miles from Highway 10 waiting on traffic. So yeah, Buc-ee's really jammed it up, but you know, it ain't too bad. Vacation for Josh, there's some pretty scenery out here. Here is so peaceful. Family trip is doing good. I haven't seen very many old cars out though. I would imagine they're pretty rough. Yeah. We're definitely cruising, seeing some new scenery. Got 140 miles till we get to Mandeville where we're going to stay tonight. So far, temperature's good. Just cruising. Just wait. Still trying to get through this traffic jam. Yeah, if you're on Highway 10 going east or west and you come across the Buc-ee's exit, if you're in a hurry, don't stop there. Only stop there if you got plenty of time to. So far we're about an hour and a half off schedule just on that little gas stop. Just in the parking lot, I managed to eat a barbecue sandwich, a brownie, and then half of my wife's salad. And drink a whole unsweet tea. So yeah, but we're on vacation. Using this nice old machine. Looking at some beautiful country. Nice and cool. It's not super hot. So yeah, not a bad way to spend the vacation. I don't know if you can see up there. Waiting on that light. Back to a lot of the same traffic. But now I'm Mobile, Alabama. Right by that Union Last time I saw that was probably like 92, 93 maybe. I came here for a family trip. But yeah, well, actually, I went through a week ago when you came down, but it's still pretty interesting. So yeah, just cruising. We're at the Fontainebleau Park here in Mandeville. This is going to be our last trip till we get home, so I'm just going over a few things here. I'm checking the oil. It's about a half quart low. So far this thing's done really well, knock on wood. But yeah, if you're ever in Mandeville, Louisiana and need a place to plug in and a nice secure park, Fontainebleau is the place to be. They got bike trails, a little beach down here on Lake Pontchartrain. Pretty nice and very quiet. So, but yeah, we've got all our stuff loaded up. I really like this little park. I'd like to come down here and stay 2 or 3 days, and you can ride into Mandeville and get stuff to eat and go to the little shops and all that kind of stuff there. So, but yeah, we're heading out and headed back to Tulsa. So. She's in there getting some drink. So this seems to be the common, no, I don't think it's as common as what you would think. Getting about right at 10 miles to the gallon. Filled it up. This is about normal. 68, 70 bucks.
I'm holding it.
You are holding it, aren't you?
It's done yet?
Yeah, well, we can put it on in just a second. So yeah, it's not doing too bad. To give you an idea, this is a house on wheels. And it's getting about 10 miles to the gallon, going 62, 63 miles an hour. And my 3/4 ton truck gets 10, 11 miles a gallon, although I cruise it like 65, 70, 75 miles an hour. But I mean, this is a house on wheels, dude. It's not that bad. So almost to Arkansas, still cruising. So yeah, after we gassed up, we decided to take a little break here in Leland, Mississippi, where we found out it's the home of the creator of the Muppets, Jim Henson. I really haven't ever watched any of that stuff even when I was little, but they have a little museum here, so we decided to get out and take a walk, show the kiddo around in there. Pretty neat little place, but yeah. And it's pretty hot out here, but it's not bad. You know, we only have AC when we plug into it, the poles at the parks and everything. But as far as the truck itself having AC when you're driving, we don't have it. But when the window's down, you get used to it, It's not too bad, so good drive. So we made it home last night about 1:30 in the morning and decided, hey, we like camping in this camper so much that we just plugged straight in and went to sleep. Stayed another night in it when we have a perfectly good house right there. So all in all, I think the motorhome did pretty good. We drove about 1,900 miles, and I think the whole way it burnt maybe like 1.5 quarts of oil. I got about 10 miles to the gallon, but yeah, we made it home. It's been a good one. So on this episode of Corey's Garage, we have just made it 1,800 miles. We went from Tulsa, Oklahoma to Miramar Beach, Florida, east of Destin. And we spent a week down there, and I'm just gonna go over what we did, what we went through. We made it all that way and did not have hardly any trouble at all. The only issues we had were stuff that just, is expected for a 40-year plus old motorhome, I got a few little things to fix on the holding tanks, like the little gaskets on the slide plates. They started leaking. The water connection for the city water, it started leaking a little bit. Mind you, I tested all this stuff when we left, and I think it's just from driving and the whole thing flexing and doing all that kind of stuff. So it's to be expected, you know. As far as mechanically and the way it was driving, with the taller tires, before I was doing like 55 miles an hour over 3,000 RPMs. Well, I put the 1.5 inch taller tire, and I think the tire that I had on it was actually shorter than 29 inches. So it was like 28.5. So I went to a 30.5 inch tall tire. So I got up I hit 65 at like a little over 3,000 RPM. So like it really made a difference. I did not think it was going to make that big of a difference, but it actually made it tolerable. Now, mind you, I still want to put a gear vendors in it because it just needs to come down. Like I don't like to hear that noise, you know, and just the engine wound up that tight. It just doesn't have to be like that anymore, you know. You could do the 480. I don't want to mess with any of the electronics because like this thing, it still has a carburetor on it. Everything is 1979 except I've done a new fuel pump. All the ignition is new. I went over and done the tune-up, changed all the fluids except for the transmission. It was fine. But yeah, I think that headlight's got the low beam out in it, and some marker lights and stuff. But like as far as this thing, it started every time we started it. Everything worked. Ooh, one thing I will say, when we were wet when we came back to the camper and we were plugged in, when we would put the key in the door or on the handle, any of the metal we touched, we would get a little bit of a zap. It's kind of like getting shocked by like a 9-volt battery. So I tested everything, and I took my meter, I put a ground into the dirt and touched the body, and I was getting 10 volts of electricity. Well, this is just after we got back from the beach and we're still wet and everything, and it's blowing my mind. I'm like, why is this thing doing this? So I have to do a little bit more research, but I would turn the breakers off inside the camper and it'd still be plugged into the unit into the power pole at the RV park, and it would still buzz you a little bit. But mind you, if you're dry and it wasn't wet, you wouldn't feel anything. So I went over to the deal and I cleaned out the post a little bit, you know, plugged it in several times, and it seemed like it might have helped. But what was crazy is when we stopped back in Mandeville on our way back, I had no electrical. I checked it again. I had no voltage when this thing was plugged up. So I think there may have been something at the plug at the RV park. I'm not for sure, but it was it was something to worry about. But aside from that, and the faucet that I put new packings and all that kind of stuff, it was perfect here. But when we got there and plugged it in, I think it was the hot side, or maybe it was the cold, I can't remember, it started leaking, dripping. And it's like, so I think a lot of just things moving around, settling it, because I guarantee you, in the past 6 months, we've drove this thing over 4,000 miles, and this thing probably has not went 4,000 miles in the last 30 years. So it's stuff to be expected. But, you know, I've done repacked the wheel bearings, put new rotors, I've redone all the wheel cylinders, all the brakes, except for the master cylinder stuff, and it's got like an old Hydro Boost kind of thing on it. But I mean, I wouldn't just jump in one that you pulled out of somebody's yard and take off. I've already done a lot of work to this before I ever even made a video about it. So like, yeah, I'd say all in all, it did great. And it's got a new rooftop air conditioner. We like to froze to death in this thing, man. It was crazy, but there's no air conditioning on the engine. So when you're driving, you have no AC. It's just windows down. And we went through some hot weather and it wasn't that bad. So it can be done. You don't have to have a brand new motorhome. You don't really need all that fancy stuff. And this was a family trip, so I took my wife and my daughter with me, and we were pretty happy. When we even got home, we didn't even go in the house. We just plugged into the garage and just went to sleep because our beds were already made. So if it was that bad, we would have been running away from this thing to get in the house, but we really weren't. We got back at like 1 in the morning and we just plugged it in, turned the AC on, and went to sleep. So I mean, it's definitely, you know, this was going to be decided, do I want to get a later model one or do I want to keep this one? And as of right now, I probably have, with doing all the mechanical work I needed to do to get it roadworthy, new tires, you know, a brand new rooftop air conditioner, all the upgrades and little things we've done to it, I don't think I've got $4,500 in this thing. And I cannot take $4,500 and go find any kind of Class C motorhome anywhere that I could just jump in and go, you know. So, I mean, I think all in all it did well. So yeah, I'll definitely be keeping this one and using it for future trips and more fun. So I hope you guys liked it. It was definitely a good time and I enjoyed it. So have a good one.